I'm Nicole Lombardo, co-founder of Get It Done Gals and creator of Savvy CEO School, and welcome to another segment of How Did She Do It? I'm so excited today to really get in behind the scenes with Rachel from Haute Chocolate. If you guys don't know her, she's been in our community for a while, and we did a webinar this spring, and so it's been really fun to get to know Rachel. And we had a chat here in San Diego together when she was in town, and I just had to have her on one of these segments to dive in deeper behind the scenes of how she's built her styled stock photography membership site. So welcome. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited.
So let's start with your journey of how you really got into this styled stock photography. You know, it seems to be something that happened just in the last few years. It became more popular. How did you start this whole venture?
Well, yeah, so I started the Haute Chocolate Styled Stock Library back in 2015. And at the time, I really couldn't find very many options for, pretty, feminine, chic styled photos. And I was actually running a whole other business at the time, but I saw this need in the market, and I saw people asking for stylish feminine stock photos, and there really wasn't very much out there. There were a couple sites that were doing it, and what they were doing was selling on Etsy or Creative Market. But I knew from my own needs of having my previous business and, running a blog and actually working on a sales page for a course that I was trying to get off the ground, I was looking for a ton of photos. And it just didn't make sense to, have to buy one-off images. So I started thinking, well, wouldn't it be great if there was a membership site of stock photos that women entrepreneurs would want to use so that they could have, a great variety of images and be able to access new images every month. And there really wasn't anything out there at the time. So I just decided, you know what, I'm going to start this. Never mind that I don't know how to take photos or style. I'll figure it out. And that was really, I just made that decision. It was January of 2015 and decided to launch it. I launched in March because I was pregnant with my second son at the time, and he was due in March. So I knew that if I didn't start before he was born, it was going to be put off. And by that time, it would probably be too late because somebody else would have already done it. So yeah, that was kind of the start of the styled stock library.
So backing up, you said you had a previous business. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so back in late 2011, I was basically just about to be done with my maternity leave. In Canada, it's really nice because we get a year of maternity leave. And I was really at a crossroads because I didn't want to go back to work. And I wanted to stay home with my son, but I needed to make an income because we couldn't swing the one income family thing. And so I started thinking, what could I do? Could I start a business? I had always wanted to, but I just always felt too scared. And I always talked myself out of it. But, I was kind of lucky in the sense that the idea of leaving my son and putting him in daycare all day was just too painful. And so I just had to make that decision to finally start a business. And it's actually funny because my very first business was a luxury chocolate favor business, hence the name, Haute Chocolate. The name stuck, but the business has pivoted a lot, actually. So yeah, I started making chocolate favors for weddings and baby showers. But then I quickly realized that it was a very labor-intensive business, and there was a lot of overhead, and I didn't have a lot of time because I had a 1-year-old at home. And so I started thinking, what can I do that's creative? I think that was the real driver for me, was that I really wanted a creative business. And at the time, printables, party printables were really starting to take off. And I saw some other people who were selling them on Etsy, and I thought, you know what, I could probably teach myself how to do this. And so even though I don't have a design background or a creative background at all, I felt that, it was something that I wanted to do and that I could get into. And I saw that, I think this thing is really going to take off. These stylized, children's parties and baby showers at the time were really just starting to get popular. So I taught myself how to use Photoshop. I taught myself graphic design, and I started a party printables business within a few months of launching the chocolate favors. It didn't last very long. And I actually ran that for about 3 years. And it was really great because I got to replace my corporate income and stay home with my son. I built it to a really nice point, selling party printables on Etsy. But, after 3 years of doing it, I realized that there was really no way to scale it. Either I was going to have to put in more hours and do more work, or I would have to hire someone, and that was really just going to cut into my profit because I wasn't making enough money to really have somebody else, in there with me. And so I started thinking, what could I build? What kind of business could I scale? And that was right around the time where I started seeing people asking about the styled stock photos and where do we get feminine stock photos from? And I started thinking, we as entrepreneurs, as women entrepreneurs, need so much visual content. It makes sense that this would be a membership site, and a membership model is that perfectly scalable model. So it was kind of perfect timing, I think, in terms of starting the styled stock library from there.
It's interesting how you have really flowed from one venture to the next, and it was kind of seamless. It kind of set you up of, okay, I'm looking to be a business owner here and start something. And you ask that question of yourself of, can I start the business? And you dealt with the fear and the holding back. And then you started something and you quickly saw, because you asked yourself the next question of like, how can I do better here?
Yeah.
How can I make this different? And then you went in and you really worked hard to create something that you didn't even know how to do. Graphic design is not a talent that many of us can just pick up and teach ourselves. How do you, it sounds like you've had to ask yourself some really hard questions and really hustle to flow into the next venture.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, it really was a journey. And I think every single piece of that journey has been important for me because I've been able to build upon, all the knowledge that it took to start the chocolate favors business, and then to build the printables business into now, channeling all of that knowledge and experience into creating a successful business with the styled stock library. So I think that it was all very important, but for me, it was, I guess, taking that first step was probably the hardest thing. And then it was really just looking at it, okay, one step at a time. What do I need to do next? And trying not to get too overwhelmed with everything, because that was what held me back so much in the beginning, was just feeling like there's so much that you need to do to start a business, and just completely feeling overwhelmed. And so what I actually did in order to start was I listed everything, like everything from like pick a name, buy a domain, set up a blog. And I just said, I am not going to look at step 2 until I've completed step 1. That was honestly the only way that I could do it. And that's exactly what I did. I just had like a big list. And as soon as I crossed one thing off, I would be looking at the next thing. And then, in terms of teaching myself graphic design, I think it was, of course, I was nervous. And I thought, okay, can I really do it? But then I thought, why not? Like, what do I really have to lose? Let me just give it a try. And I didn't have a lot of money to invest at the time at all. So I just started, Googling. I watched free videos. I downloaded, like, my first version of Photoshop was like the free version. Then I upgraded to, I don't even remember what it's called, but it's not like the pro version of Photoshop. It was like $30 a year or something, like I did things very incrementally. And I think that's why I was able to do it, because I didn't try to be, this amazing graphic designer in the very beginning. It was just like, okay, let me learn what I need to do. And then the other thing that I did was I really took cues from my customers. So they would come to me and say, oh, can you design this? Or can you do this? And I would always say yes. And then I would figure out how to do it. It wasn't like I actually knew how to do it, but I knew that I could figure it out. And so I would take on, custom work for clients and things like that. And that helped me grow so much because I was constantly being pushed out of my comfort zone. And that also allowed me to build a very successful Etsy shop because I was listening to what people wanted and really responding to that. And so I think, one of the things that really helped me was I was really paying attention to, what do people want? What are the trends? What's coming up? What's missing? That's a big one is what's missing right now in the market. And so I think those are things that I was constantly aware of, and that I was kind of honing that skill of knowing what the market wants and when it wants it. And that really helped me when I started the Style Stock Library, because I could see the need. And I just said, you know what, if I taught myself graphic design, I can teach myself photography, I'll figure it out. And that was just kind of the attitude that I went in with. And of course, I practiced a ton, and I took thousands of photos that, never saw the light of day. And the same thing with the graphic design. I created tons of designs. I spent hours and hours and hours, trying to figure things out that, probably would have taken someone, if they had been trained, like 3 seconds, right? But that was just what I had to go through to get those skills and to start those businesses.
So after all this hustle and putting together your to-do list and going step by step through setting everything up, how long did it take you to start getting customers and start making the revenue you needed to generate?
I think I launched my, with the Style Stock Library, or just in the very beginning?
Well, let's go from Etsy, how long it took you there, because I'm sure once you had some of the customers in Etsy and kind of the name around your graphic design, did some of that carry into Haute Chocolate or no?
No, actually,
Okay.
it really didn't. Because what I was designing in Etsy, they were like party invitations and baby shower invitations. It wasn't business customers, which is, that's who I'm targeting with the Style Stock Library. But just to answer your first question, like on Etsy, when I first started, I think I opened the store in October, and I think I got my first sale. Actually, no, I got my first sale January 1st. So, it was like a couple of months with really nothing. It was just me kind of building inventory and that type of thing. And then actually once I switched to the party printables, like from the chocolates, that started picking up pretty quickly. And so I started thinking, this can really grow. And I just put a lot of time and effort into creating lots of designs. Again, looking at, what is trending, what do people want, paying attention to, what patterns are out there right now in fashion that people are going to want to start incorporating into parties and that type of thing. So it actually grew pretty quickly. And it took me about a year from launching my Etsy shop to the point where I was replacing my full-time income. But one big mistake that I made when I launched my Etsy shop was that I had no idea what an email list was. And B, obviously didn't think it was important to create one. And so I had about 6,000 customers on Etsy, over those years. And I had no email list whatsoever. And luckily, before I launched the Styled Stock Library, I took B-School and sort of learned the importance of an email list. And as soon as I made the decision that I was going to launch the Styled Stock Library, I started, talking about it, and I was sending people to a landing page and starting to grow my email list. So I think that just doing that actually helped me launch the Style Stock Library pretty quickly.
I love that, because it goes back to the journey of what we learned prior really helps us in the next venture.
Yeah, exactly. That was like my single most important thing. Like I was like, okay, I'm doing this and I'm going to launch this, email list and start telling people about it right now before it's even ready. What I did was I gave people a couple of free stock photos for signing up, and it was a great way to sort of get people excited. And I started building a list. So I think when I actually launched, I had about 100 people, which of course is not huge, but some of those 100 people actually bought. And so it was great because within, the first day of launching, I had a couple sales, and the first month, we had a handful of people. So I felt the momentum, and that was what I needed to keep going.
Yeah, I hear often that as new business owners, people are stuck on that to-do list, of figuring out the name and the URL, like you were saying earlier. And one thing that I've been really trying to get across to our community is build excitement, talk about what you're doing. So even while you're building, people still are really understanding who you are, what you're doing, what's coming up next. Because a lot of times when you first start your business, it's friends and family who work with you first and foremost. So if you're talking about it and really excited about it, and then we have social media now to really emphasize that, it builds that momentum as you're going through. Like, we have a lot of health coaches, and as they're going through the certifications, we start working with them and saying, okay, get yourself out there on social media, get yourself out in the community, get people to know you, and all the excitement and buzz around what you're doing, and then get your beta testers in. By the time you graduate, you've got paying clients, you've got your business set up, people know what you're doing, and you can start charging those full prices right away. And so it's building, like you said, that momentum and getting people excited and knowledgeable about what's coming next.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And now when anybody ever asks me, I'm thinking about starting a business, like, what should I do? That's the first thing I say. I'm like, before you even figure out what you're going to sell, start getting out there, create a landing page, start collecting emails, create a free, opt-in, whatever that looks like right now. And, start connecting with people, start building that community, and then use that to your advantage, because you can ask questions. You can find out what people really want, what people really need. You don't have to come at it with, here's my offer. You start building that community, you start having those conversations, and then very organically, it informs what you're going to do next. So you don't have to have it all figured out, before you start, and feel like you have to have all the pieces of the puzzle and the perfect branding before you launch. I really don't think that's the case. I think the better way to do it is start having those conversations, telling people what you're doing, and really getting a feel for what they need.
Mm-hmm. I wholeheartedly agree. I think we talked about this. It's relationship building and connecting. And like you said, asking the questions is so important. And that's a theme as you explain your story and share what you went through, is you're always asking those questions. That feedback is so, so important. And sometimes we come at business of, this is what we want to give the world, and this is what we're going to do. And then we wonder why people are not resonating with it. So,
yeah, absolutely. I think, I found that too. Like, I try really hard to have those conversations with my customers, find out what they want, what are they looking for, when it comes to stock photos, what's missing, what do you want? What are the colors? What are the themes? What are the things that you are interested in? And having those conversations, whether it's sending out surveys or talking to people individually, or having those conversations on social media. I mean, we're so lucky that we have all of these social media platforms where we can really connect with our customers and gauge excitement about our offers and all of that. So I think that it's really important to just have a really good pulse on what people want and make sure that you're providing that. And yeah, it isn't, yes, it's your business, but it's not about you. It's about the value that you're providing to your customers. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. And you can't do that unless you're willing to engage and have those conversations.
I love that. It's not about you. It's about the value you give.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's so easy especially if you're a solo entrepreneur, you're sitting at home, you're in front of your computer all day long, and you kind of get in this bubble, and it's so easy to think that you know what your customers want, but unless you actually ask them, you really don't. And there have been times where I've been really surprised, at the answers that I got back. And it was like, oh, I really wasn't actually every time I send out a survey, I'm like, I know what we're going to do, for the next 6 months. And then I send out a survey and it's like, okay, scratch all of that. Here's what they want, So it's really, and I think that I have a pretty good pulse on things, but it's not as clear as actually people, responding to your questions and having those even picking up the phone. I know a lot of us don't want to do that, but it could be great just to have a 5-minute conversation with a customer, even to find out why they purchased from you. those types of things, that little personal touch can really go a long way.
Yes, it does. I really actually like to pick up the phone. I like to have.
You're rare.
I'm very rare. I like to pick up the phone and talk to people who have gone through our programs. And I'll jump on something like Zoom or Skype, and we talk about where they were before and why they purchased and what's happening now and kind of next steps, and encouraging them for stepping out, because it is a hard decision to work on a business. It's a hard decision to purchase a program or, whatever it might be. And you get so much information. You also make a really good connection with somebody. I mean, it's very rare to have someone that you've purchased an online course to chit chat with you,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure that they feel the same way with you of what known styled stock photographer calls up and says, hey, let's chat for a second here. What do you want? How can I do better? But I love that. I think it just takes that business up a notch.
Mm-hmm.
To being a luxury, like you infuse luxury and premium throughout all of your businesses.
I hope so. I mean, that was really what I was always going for. And that's why the name always stuck. Even though I pivoted so many times, I felt like the name still encompassed what it was that I was trying to do, which was in every single one of my businesses. I was just trying to elevate whatever it was that I was doing and create something that was stylish and chic. Whether it was chocolates or, birthday party invitation or stock photos. So that's why the branding hasn't changed.
I love that you use the word elevate, because on your website, you're trying to help other women elevate their businesses by providing this beautiful stock photography. So I love that. It's like you took something that was really meaningful to you, and that's what you're trying to help these other women do.
Absolutely. And it's really funny because it was in doing that I get so much joy and happiness, and I feel like I found my thing, because I absolutely love it when, somebody sends me an email and says, I finally launched my website because of your stock photos. Like I was holding back and I couldn't do it because it wasn't me. It didn't represent my brand, and I finally did it. Or I'm able to publish, blog posts consistently because I always have an image, or I can post on Instagram and I'm growing my following. I mean, that means so much to me when I hear that, because it's like, yes, I'm creating something. Yes, they're beautiful photos, but it's so much more than that. I'm creating something and putting something out there that's giving people the ability to build a business and create a life that they really love and, follow their passions. So that makes me really happy.
I love that. It's beautiful photos, but it is so much more than that. That's a quotable. That's going in the blog post. It's beautiful. Okay, so let's get into some of the nitty gritty with Haute Chocolate. So you decided at the very beginning to not just put photos out there one by one, but to do the membership site. And it sounds like you had to learn how to put that all together. How has that experience been for you?
It was a lot like starting originally, because it felt really overwhelming at first because I didn't know how to do it. I had no idea, what all the pieces were going to look like. And I just, again, had to kind of list it all out. It's like, find a membership platform that will integrate with Squarespace, because I use Squarespace. So I was kind of limited at the time of what can I actually use. And, so I started, again, feeling that overwhelm, and I just had to keep reminding myself to just simplify. And the biggest, lesson for me was just don't overcomplicate things. Find a platform that you can figure out and just go for it. And this is what I kept telling myself was like, yes, maybe WordPress is better because there's more options for growth and all of that. But I knew Squarespace. I knew I could build a website in Squarespace. I knew I didn't have to hire a developer for anything. And so I decided to go with that because it was the easiest thing. And then I found, a membership plugin that worked. Didn't have a ton of bells and whistles, but again, I was just like, this will work for now. If I need something else, then I'll grow into that. And so that was kind of the mentality that I had with everything around building the membership site. It was, what is going to work for me right now, so that I can get started, so that I'm not wasting time months of development or thousands of dollars because I didn't have it. And I honestly, I didn't know if the idea was going to fly. I had it was a brand new concept really, because at the time there were no other styled stock membership sites. I had never sold a styled stock photo. So I didn't even know if people were going to like my style and want to buy it. And so I didn't want to invest a lot of time and money into building something if I wasn't sure that it was actually going to work. And so I just tried to keep it small and very simple and just do the things that I knew how to do myself and just build it that way. So, I mean, that's where we started. And 2 years, a little more than 2 years later, right now we're having a custom website developed. But up till now, it's been, my Squarespace website with a little plugin and just kind of figuring things out by tinkering on my own. But now I've reached that point where the business has grown and we need something that's more sophisticated so that we can have better user experience. And so now I'm investing in building a custom website.
I know we talked about this when we met up, and it was so exciting to hear about everything that you're putting into place. And what I loved is everything you're talking about is so real and true, is you actually sat and asked, as customers and with interacting with my business, what feedback do you have? And I love that, and a lot of that you've already implemented into this changeover with the website. But, everything that you're talking about is so genuine and real, from really getting to know you. So you have the membership site, you're upgraded into a new platform, which is super exciting. So what is your biggest driver of leads, and what would you say is your best tool to share with someone when they're looking at marketing their business? Because your name is out there, your photography is out there. How did you start to really get the marketing going after you had the email list initially? Bring us up to date on the last 2 years of your marketing efforts.
Sure. I mean, definitely the email list has been my number one priority. Building it and also cultivating that relationship with the people who are on my list by creating value, by giving out free stock photos every month, by, creating tutorials, whether it's through videos on YouTube or blog posts or things like that, showing people how to get the most use out of stock photos. So the email list itself has been, the biggest driver of sales for me. And so yeah, that's the thing that, I spend my most amount of time on is obviously getting the leads, but also creating that sense of community and a sense of value. So that's the biggest thing, but actually getting those leads. So that's a really good question. It's been really interesting because people are usually really surprised to find out that I haven't done a lot of advertising. We spent probably $300 last year on Facebook advertising. And so a lot of it has been through organic traffic. And a lot of it has just been through relationships that I've built with my customers and them being so excited about the Styled Stock Library and wanting to share it. It's been honestly very amazing to me the amount of support that I've received and the amount of people who have just, been wanting to share and say, hey, if you need pretty stock photos that are really high quality, this is where you can find them. And that honestly has been the biggest thing is almost any time, in any Facebook group, somebody asks a question, where can I find feminine stock photos? Someone always, will tag Haute Chocolate or tag me. And that's been just honestly really amazing. And that's really helped me grow. So I think to answer your question, what does that translate into for other people? I think it's a couple of things. I think it's having a great product that people are really excited about and really want to share. I think it's building, that sense of community and really valuing your customers so that they want to get out there and spread the word as well. Another thing that actually really helped me was I did some custom work for some, kind of more well-known people, and they had huge lists. And so they were, telling, people were asking, where did you get your photos from? And they were sharing that as well. So that also really helped me. So I guess, you could probably boil that down to working with influencers if you can. can definitely be a really great way, especially in the beginning, because I actually haven't done custom work for over a year now, but I did in the very early stages. And that really helps me. It helps to gain credibility, of course, but then also because they've got such, large platforms when they do share, it's really great. So, building that credibility, building that, building those relationships and that sense of community, and having really loyal customers who are amazing and who want to spread the word about your product. I mean, that's a really great way to do things. Just now sort of starting to look into paid advertising and all of that. So it's been pretty awesome that I haven't, even really had to go that route. It's really been word of mouth and organic traffic.
It all goes back to relationship building, whether it's in the community, offline, online, it's all back to relationships and value and trust. And, it sounds to me like everything you do is really based upon quality.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's my biggest driver. And it's something that I probably, anyone who works with me will tell you that, like, I'm really obsessed with that. And so it's the quality of the photos, but it's also the quality of the relationships that we have with our customers. I want my customers to be really happy. I want them to feel like they're getting a ton of value. And so that's really important to me. And I think that when you approach your business that way, and you're really looking out for your customers and you're really giving them a lot, then they're just going to be excited and they're going to help you to spread the word. I mean, there's no way I'd be where I am if it wasn't for all of my amazing customers who were telling other people, which is really nice, because a lot of them have said to me, I don't really want to share my secret, but it's too good. Like, I have to tell other people. They're like, don't really want them to know where I get my photos from, but it's just that good that I can't keep it to myself. And so, like, that's really amazing. And I'm so grateful, for everyone who has helped me spread the word about this little style stock photography membership site. So.
Oh, that's cute. I love it. I do the same thing, One thing we do as business coaches is we connect people. There's a lot of amazing women, especially in our free Facebook group, like the public one. And you want to share everybody's names and all of that. But once you get somebody really good, you don't want to give their name out because they get really, really busy. And then you go, oh man, like, oh, they're so busy now. But it's wonderful for them. Love to connect people and share. So what is the most impactful lesson you've learned in building your empire, really, of all these different businesses? But what is the most impactful lesson do you think you've learned?
I think there's probably two things. Well, maybe three things, actually. Never have a simple answer. Ironically, one of the things is to simplify. Really, stop that overwhelm and just do what you can do right now, and just keep taking action and keep growing. And don't worry about, is this the best thing for me 5 years from now? Because as a solopreneur, it's really hard to know. You're probably going to pivot, you're going to change, and that's okay. I think we sort of think about things, like a big corporation would, with like a 10-year plan, but you're just one person and you can pivot as quickly as you need to, which is great. And so I think just don't think too far ahead if it's slowing you down, if it's making you not take action. So that would be my first thing is, like, simplify, do what you can do right now. And then the other thing would be just to be consistent. So being consistent with the value that you're providing, with the products that you're creating. For me, because I have a membership site, I have to be super consistent. Every month, there are photos that are being released. And so, like, I can't skip a month if I feel like, you know what I mean? So being consistent, whether it's in like your actual products that you're selling, or if it's your social media platforms that you're trying to grow, or your blogs, or whatever the case is, just being really consistent with the work that you're putting out there, and the value and the quality of that work. And then finally, probably the most important thing is listening to your market, really understanding what your customers want, and not being afraid to have conversations with them. And sometimes you hear stuff that you don't want to hear, you're going to hear criticisms or feedback that's not so nice. But that stuff's actually really amazing because that will really help you to make things better, to really push yourself and to grow and to create better products.
Wonderful. Those are all really, really good lessons. Very good lessons. And I think that, yeah, get it done, gals. I think our tagline on the website is like, cut your to-do list in half, simplify, that is a big mission of ours. And I think we talked about that too when you were here of, you're by yourself, you have all these things that you should be doing, and it's just scrap that. Just like you have said multiple times of just do one thing at a time and then go to the next. You don't have to be overwhelmed. Get rid of the shoulds and just focus on what's right in front of you, and talk to your customers because they're going to give you the good feedback of what they want. That's still engaging in a big way. That's providing trust and value to them. And then the actual product of really being consistent in your quality and your design and, your free content that you put out there. Your free content is just as good as your paid content. And that's something that is really important, I think, for new entrepreneurs to think about is, really put out your quality, but it doesn't have to be quantity.
Yeah, exactly.
Connecting is the most important part in there.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like you said, your free content really should be just as good as your paid content because that's the first thing that people are getting from you. So you're setting that standard. So you definitely want to set that standard high, and you really do want to give value. And I completely agree that it's more about quality than it is about quantity. And it's not about, being a machine and just like churning out, all these things. It's really about creating that quality and making sure that it's valuable and that it is what people want. I think really that's the most important thing. And yeah, I get it done, gals. Like it's perfect, right? Because it's just like, don't overcomplicate things and don't let that overwhelm stop you from making, taking that next step or making progress in your business. And don't feel like it has to be perfect, right? I mean, I should have saved my original, website or whatever, but things evolve and things change and they'll get better, and it's okay to launch where you're at right now and then use that feedback to make it better and grow. I think that's the most important thing, and that's what every single successful entrepreneur does. Marie Forleo was not Marie Forleo of 10 years ago, right? B-School didn't look the same, or any other entrepreneur that you might follow. So don't look at, where they're at right now. Of course there's that saying, like, don't compare, what's that saying? Don't compare your
beginning to someone else's
middle. I mean, it's so true. And we all do it. We're like, we could never be this good. But everybody starts somewhere, and, everything is going to evolve and get better. And as long as you're always making those improvements and those tweaks and you're listening to your customers, then you're on the right track.
Yeah, I think it's hard for people. I know that when we talk to some people in our community or our clients, they feel like they have to hustle and have these really big agendas for themselves. And I try to strip it back for them and say, the most important thing you can do, top priority every day, is connect and build relationships with those in your community who might be ideal clients and strategic partners or referral partners. And then online, the most impactful thing that you can do today, think about what that looks like. Mm-hmm. If it's a quote, it's a quote. If it's a Facebook Live, it's a Facebook Live. But how can you connect with someone so they understand what you're doing? Mm-hmm. And it always goes back like, no, there has to be more. Like, I need that list. I need that strategy. Nope, that's not going to work. Nope. And I'm going, that's why you're here. Cut all that other stuff and focus on making a really good connection with somebody today. Mm-hmm. And try it online and offline. And I promise you, your business will move forward. That momentum will start moving forward. But it's funny because we're tied to that perfectionism. We're tied to everything we've heard on every free webinar. And, we have to do X, Y, Z, and we have to have Facebook ads and funnels and all this stuff. And it's like, no, just strip it all away and show up as you.
Yeah. And honestly, I love that. Like, just asking yourself, what is the most impactful thing that I can do today? And I try to do that too, because I do sometimes feel like so bogged down, and it's like, okay, if I don't do this other stuff, I'll probably be okay. But what is like the one thing that I need to do today? And, just doing that is going to just put you so much further ahead, because, so many people, like you said, are just stuck, with that to-do list and building out their funnels, for 5 months or whatever it is. When you could be talking to people and building relationships and really getting to know what people want and working on creating that solution. So,
So what's coming up next for Hot Chocolate? I know you have some exciting things. If you want to share, you have a website. What else is going on?
yeah, I mean, the website right now is like our biggest thing, because there's so many moving pieces, and it's really going to be a complete overhaul of what is happening right now in the members area. So it's going to be, it's really exciting. I don't want to say too much yet, but I think it's just going to be so much easier and more intuitive and more fun for our members to find the right stock photo. So I'm really, really excited about that. But I mean, summer's coming up. My kids are off school, or my one son's in school. My other one's only 2. So a lot of it, is going to be spent family time. So right now we're really focusing on creating our content, all of our stock photo collections, and having them ready to go over the next couple months, so that I can, actually myself and my whole team can take some time off over the summer and really just enjoy our families and enjoy the sun, and hopefully get a little bit of a tan, and do
All those,
all the fun summer stuff.
Good. That's exciting. That's exciting. So, you're visible in the online community, and our community knows you and has seen you quite often. So what is one thing that you think that maybe the online world doesn't know about you?
I don't know. It's funny because I feel like I'm pretty transparent. I mean, I don't share like so much of my personal life, honestly, because it's pretty boring. Like there's really not a lot that is like Instagrammable in my life. That's probably what they don't know. People always ask me, what does your desk look like? Or, and I'm like, it looks messy, like everybody's desk. All of my pretty props are in a closet because my 2-year-old likes to come and, play with everything. So maybe what they don't know is that my life is not as styled as my stock photos might make it seem. Not at all. Pretty chaotic. I have 2 boys. So yeah, it's that would probably be the thing. People generally think that it's all very pretty and pristine around here, but that is not the case.
I love that. I love that. That is so good. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's really funny that that's what you spoke about, because I think people get lost. Someone told me yesterday, she goes, you know what? I'm so off in my business because I got lost in the 9 grid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we were talking about, okay, you don't have to have the perfect Instagram feed.
Yeah.
Let me show you a million case studies where it doesn't look perfect, or use hot chocolate photo, use whatever you can. And then you move on, you connect in your community. And for her, it was really about showing up in her community and creating and cultivating relationship.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, I was so worried about what my 9 grid looked like. I couldn't do anything else for weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big thing. And it's like, no, life isn't perfect.
No. And you know what? And there is like so much pressure that we feel to be perfect and put that perfect image out there. And I guess people might say, well, isn't it kind of ironic that you're saying that when you create like these stylized images? But to me, those images are just helping you to elevate. They're helping you to put your best, foot forward. They're helping to level the playing field. If you're a brand new entrepreneur and you can't afford to get, custom professional stock photos done, they're supposed to be there to make your life easier. And so that you can focus on the real stuff, which is creating that content for your community and creating that value for your community. And I think we shouldn't, lose sight of it, lose sight of that. If you want to post a photo that has nothing to do with anything else, I mean, do it, or use Instagram stories, or find a platform where you can connect in a real way with your audience. I think that's really important. And just, honestly, it's just about being yourself and being really real and not feeling like you should have to fit into a specific mold in order to be successful, because what is the point of running a business? What is the point of being your own boss if you're not really being true to yourself? You might as well go work a 9 to 5, because that's usually what you have to do in the corporate world, is fit somebody else's mold. So you might as well make your business your thing, and be as, true and honest for yourself and for your audience, because they deserve that as well.
Beautiful words to wrap this up with. It seems to be the trend. Be authentic, be you. And I love how you compared it to the corporate world, is you don't have to be tied into something else that someone wants you to be. Being a business owner, we have all the freedom in the world to show up how we want to show up, be creative how we want to be creative. And once we break out of that mold of all of the shoulds and the pretty pictures, then we can just be real. What I tell people honestly to do is, I'm like, if you are spending more than a few minutes trying to come up with content, you just go over to Haute Chocolate, you get all your photos, watch Rachel's tutorials, and then you write text in the comments, and then you do a story around interacting and being real and showing behind the scenes. It's that easy. Mm-hmm. But we get lost in that perfectionism and get held back. Now, some of that is just not having the knowledge. So we appreciate you always showing up and giving value to our community, because I think that's something that you did so well in the webinar and you've done here today. So we appreciate you so much, and thank you for taking the time to really dive deeper into all of your expertise with being a fabulous entrepreneur and CEO.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.